The world is full of misery and sin today in consequence of ill-assorted marriages. Welcome to One Truth, and thank you for joining me today. And here we will keep you motivated and encouraged. Are you new to the channel? Please consider to subscribe and give us a like. That would be greatly appreciated. And as we are looking at this wonderful book, looking at Adventist Home, and now we are on chapter 12, looking at compatibility. Most of the people, they are married, but they are not matched. And as a result, there is a lot of strife and contention in the families. So as we look at this, we will be looking at adapted to each other. And in many families, there is not that Christian politeness, that true courteous deference and respect for one another that would prepare its members to marry and make a happy families of their own. In the place of patience, kindness, tender, courteous, and Christian sympathy and love, there are sharp words, clashing ideas, and a criticizing dictatorial spirit. And as a result, there is no peace and happiness in the family because these two people, they are not compatible enough. So what do we mean by this being compatible? As we look at this, we look at that it is often the case that persons before marriage have little opportunity to become acquainted with each other's habits and dispositions. And so far as everyday life is concerned, they are virtually strangers when they unite their interests at the altar. Many find too late that they are not adapted to each other, and lifelong wretchedness is the result of their union. Often the wife and children suffer from the indolence and inefficiency or the vicious habits of the husband and father. The world is full of misery and sin today in consequence of ill-assorted marriages. In many cases, it takes only a few months for husband and wife to realize that their dispositions can never blend. And the result of this discord prevails in the home, where only the love and harmony of heaven should exist. By contention over trivial matters, a bitter spirit is cultivated. Open disagreements and bickering bring inexpressible misery into the home and drive asunder those who should be united in the bonds of love. Thus, thousands have sacrificed themselves, soul and body, by unwise marriages, and they have gone down in the path of perdition. They realize when it's already too late because they did not have enough time to converse and to court well. They were just driven by infatuation, and as a result, there is no happiness. Perpetual differences in a divided home. What do we have under this title? The happiness and prosperity of the married life depend upon the unity of the parties. How can the carnal mind harmonize with the mind that is assimilated to the mind of Christ? One is sowing to the flesh, thinking and acting in accordance with the promptings of his own heart. The other is sowing to the spirit, seeking to repress selfishness, to overcome inclination, and to live in obedience to the master, whose servant he professes to be. Thus, there is a perpetual difference of taste, of inclination, and of purpose. Unless the believer shall, through his steadfast adherence to principle, win the impenitent, ye will, as is much more common, become discouraged and sell his religious principles for the poor companionship of one who has no connection with heaven. How many families are broken down because they were not matched? They start to realize that when it's already too late, and some they will end up even giving their principles for the sake of love. They say it is love. And in that way, they dismiss Jesus Christ in their home. Marriage is wrecked by incompatibility. Many marriages can only be productive of misery. And yet the minds of the youth run in this channel because Satan leads them there, making them believe that they must be married in order to be happy. When they have not the ability to control themselves or support a family, those who are not willing to adapt themselves to each other's disposition so as to avoid unpleasant differences and contentions should not take the step. But this is one of the alluring snares of the last days, in which thousands are ruined for this life and the next. The aftermath of blind love. Every faculty of those who become affected by this contagious disease, blind love, is brought in subjection to it. They seem to be devoid of good sense, and their course of action is disgusting to all who behold it. With many, the crisis of the disease is reached in an immature marriage. And when the novelty is past and the bewitching power of love making is over, one or both parties awake to their true situation. They often find themselves ill mated, but united for life, bound to each other by the most solemn vows. They look with sinking hearts upon the miserable life they must lead. They look with sinking hearts upon the miserable life. They ought then to make the best of their situation, but many will not do this. They will either prove false to their marriage vows or make the yoke which they persisted in placing upon their own necks so very galling that not a few cowardly put an end to their existence. It should henceforth be the life study of both the husband and wife how to avoid everything that creates contention and to keep unbroken the marriage vows. We look at that marriage is for life, and as it is for life, now if you discover late that you married the wrong companion, what are you going to do? Are you going to dismiss the other part because of your own failure of making the right choices? Experience of others, a warning. How many times do we look at the warnings from others? How many times do we see divided and failed marriages? And some they even come to counsel, but we don't heed to the counsel. If we consider the people like Samson, they were given counsel, but they did not open their ears to hear. And as we look at the experiences of others in our families, in the society, in our churches, in the world, we see that there are a lot of divided families. But why is that we are not learning to this? So as we are looking at the experience of others as a warning, Mr. A has a nature that Satan plays upon with wonderful success. This case is one that should teach the young a lesson in regard to marriage. His life followed feeling and impulse, not reason and judgment, in selecting a companion. Was their marriage the result of true love? No, no. It was the result of impulse, blind, unsanctified passion. Neither was it all fitted for the responsibilities of married life. When the novelty of the new order of things wore away, and each became acquainted with the other, did their love become stronger, their affection deeper, and their lives blend together in beautiful harmony? It was entirely the opposite. The worst traits of their characters began to deepen by exercise, and instead of their married life being one of happiness, it has been one of increasing trouble. For years, I have been receiving letters from different persons who have formed unhappy marriages, and the revolving histories opened before me are enough to make the heart ache. It is not an easy thing to decide what advice can be given to these unfortunate ones, or how their hard load can be lighted. But their said experience should be a warning to others. So this is what we have to learn and understand about the issue of being compatible. It is an essential thing that the two parties, they have to be compatible with each other. That when the phase of infatuation is over, now the love will take them through. And some others, they make a mistake of saying that we are going to find our life in the marriage. So it doesn't work like that. But we are to give ourselves fully to the Lord and accept Jesus Christ to be the leader and the guider in each and everything. And in that way, we will be guided very well. Not that we should marry the ones that we don't love. We are to marry the ones that we love, ones that we can associate with, ones that we can talk till daylight. All these things, they are need to be looked upon. And as a result, we have to look at what is our likes, what are our dislikes. And as we look at this, then we can tell what kind of a person am I going to marry. And it is important that we consider mostly the faith part of it. And on our next live stream, we'll be looking at domestic training. Preparing for marriage is an essential part of education. So join me in the next presentation. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do subscribe and also share the content with others so that they can also get motivated and encouraged, as our mission is to build families for eternity. Goodbye.